The first Chronicles of Narnia film, The Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe, came out 18 years ago in 2005. The third and last of the Narnia films, The Voyage of the Dawn Treader, came out 13 years ago in 2010. Begging the question, why did the Narnia films just stop, with only 3 of C.S Lewis's 7 Narnia books adapted into films?
Aslan, we need your help.
Was it because of their diminishing box office results, behind-the-scenes studio issues, or difficulty adapting the source material? Well, actually, it's all of the above. After we go over why the Narnia film stopped, we'll look at the news of the upcoming Narnia Netflix films, and whether they will perhaps continue on from where the original trilogy left off, or whether they will start the franchise all over again. Probably, and maybe even inevitably, to finish off with the Dawn Treader again. And we'll have to wait another decade or so for Narnia Reboot number 3.
You have returned for a reason. Your adventure begins now.
So let's take a look at the financial reason why the Narnia film stopped at Dawn Treader. In the early 2000s, amongst the peak of Harry Potter and Lord of the Rings, the Chronicles of Narnia, The Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe was released. And despite the very long title, the film did really well, grossing $720 million at the box office, which when adjusted for inflation comes to over $1.1 billion. It was in fact the third highest grossing movie that year, just below Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire and Star Wars Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith, and doubling the box office of Batman Begins, Chicken Little and the Fantastic Four. Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe had a production budget of $180 million, which was much more than the budget for Revenge of the Sith and Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire. Once we doubled the budget to account for marketing and distribution, the total budget for Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe comes to $360 million, meaning the film made $360 million in profit. So a very good start to the Narnia film franchise. However, the next 2 Narnia films didn't fare as well at the box office. In 2008, 3 years after The Lion, Witch and the Wardrobe, Prince Caspian was released. Prince Caspian made $417 million at the box office on a budget of $225 million, which would be expensive nowadays, but was an absolutely incredible budget for 2008. So if we double the production budget to account for marketing and distribution, Prince Caspian made a loss of $33 million. Prince Caspian was the 10th highest grossing film in 2008, grossing less than WALL-E, Mamma Mia, and less than half of The Dark Knight. 2 years later, in 2010, The Voyage of the Dawn Treader was released. On a much reduced production budget of $155 million, Dawn Treader made $418 million, making a profit of just over $100 million. The trend of diminishing box office returns, plus the steadily falling reviews, all but sealed Narnia's fate as an incomplete movie franchise. The behind-the-scenes studio problems and difficulties with adapting the books certainly played a factor in Narnia's premature ending, but the box office failure all but sealed its fate.
You've got an extraordinary destiny, something greater than you could have imagined.
So now let's look at the aforementioned studio issues that plague the Chronicles of Narnia. There are 3 players to note when it comes to the making of the Narnia films. Walden Media, who owned the film rights for Narnia, Disney, who co-produced the first 2 films, and 20th Century Fox, who co-produced The Voyage of the Dawn Treader with Walden. Disney ended their relationship with Walden Media for 2 reasons. A dispute with Walden Media owner Philip Anschutz over what cut they would receive of the profit that the movies make, and the change in the chosen release date of Prince Caspian, with Philip Anschutz wanting a December release date, like The Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe, but Disney instead opted for May the 6th. And after the lower than expected box office of Prince Caspian, Disney saw no reason to carry on throwing money at a franchise which returned very little, and they ended their relationship with Walden Media. 20th Century Fox took over from Disney as co-producer for the 3rd film, Voyage of the Dawn Treader, and with the release date changed back to December and a much reduced budget, Dawn Treader made $1 million more than Prince Caspian at the box office. Despite making a profit, thanks in part to its much lower budget, this box office return by no means gave 20th Century Fox much excitement to plough in another $150 million for a fourth Narnia film. Fortunately for Fox, they wouldn't be forced to do so, as Walden Media's rights to Narnia expired in 2011. The Mark Gordon Company acquired these rights in 2013, but it was not until 2017 that the fourth film in the Chronicles of Narnia franchise was announced. But that came to nothing. And then in 2018, Netflix announced that they had made a deal with the C.S Lewis estate to develop a new series of Narnia TV and film adaptations.
All that you know is about to change.
The final issue that most likely contributed to the box office failings and trepidation with Disney and Fox in creating more Narnia movies is that C.S. Lewis's books seem almost intentionally difficult to adapt into films. In the first two books, we follow the Pevensey children Lucy, Edmund, Peter and Susan. Then in the Voyage of the Dawn Treader, we lose Peter and Susan and follow Lucy, Edmund, Prince Caspian and their cousin Eustace. The next book is The Silver Chair, where we drop all of the Pevensey kids and return to Narnia with Eustace and his classmate Jill. Just a few months have passed for Eustace, but they arrive in Narnia 50 years since the events of the Dawn Treader, with Prince Caspian now an old man. Book number 5, The Horse and His Boy, takes place during the final events of The Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe. Book 6, The Magician's Nephew, is a prequel about Narnia's origins, where we again change the main characters to Diggory Kirk and Polly Plummer. And finally, we have The Last Battle, taking place 200 years after the events of the Silver Chair. So Narnia is certainly not a simple, linear story, like say Harry Potter or Lord of the Rings. C.S. Lewis himself, in a letter to a young American reader, agreed with their chronological order and not in the order in which the books were published. So with completely different POV characters and jumping back and forth tens and hundreds of years, adaptation of the books to the movie format would be difficult to pull off. And with Fox looking at the reduced profitability and a fan dislike for Eustace, who would very much be the main character in the fourth film, you can understand why the plug was pulled on further Narnia films. So that's why the well-loved Narnia films came to an end. A concoction of reduced interest from moviegoers, expensive budgets, studio changes, and books which became more difficult to adapt to film. So now let's get on to the Netflix agreement with the C.S. Lewis estate to see what we know so far about the new films and TV shows to come out, hopefully, sometime over the next 5 years. Netflix bought the rights to adapt the books in 2018, and unlike previous deals, where it will be a co-production between Disney and Walden, Netflix hold the rights to all 7 books outright. Greta Gerwig, most known for directing and writing Barbie, has been announced to direct 2 Narnia films. Whether it will be a reboot of The Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe, or to start afresh with The Magician's Nephew, which would chronologically be the first book in the Narnia series, we simply don't know. Netflix paid around $250 million for the rights and hired Matthew Aldrich to be its creative architect. A fancy title, which from my interpretation essentially means films and shows, and he will be overseeing it all. And since that news in 2018, we've had pretty much radio silence from Netflix. All we've had in the last 5 years is a short sentence from Greta Gerwig in July 2023, where she said the following: "I haven't really started wrapping my arms around Narnia, but I'm properly scared of it, which feels like a good place to start." So we're 5 years into Netflix's ownership of the Narnia rights, and with Gerwig seemingly not even at the pre-production stage, we may be 3 to 4 years off a film. Perhaps with the huge success of Barbie and Gerwig becoming more of a household name, Netflix will speed up their Narnia plans. But in my opinion, an option which could be just as likely is that Netflix may just run out of time to create a Narnia film or show. We don't know how long Netflix have the rights for Narnia, but it's not indefinite. Walden Media's rights deal lasted around 10 years, and Netflix are already 5 years into theirs. and if they have a similar expiry date that Walden Media did, they will lose their chance to make a Narnia film or show by 2028, leaving the rights once again to be up for grabs. Perhaps Disney could come along and finish off the Narnia franchise, especially as Will Poulter, who played Eustace in Dawn Treader, is currently under contract at Disney in the MCU. Besides, after buying out Fox's entertainment assets in 2017, Disney own the rights to all 3 Narnia films. So I don't think it's beyond the realms of possibility that Narnia, like every franchise, could be in the hands of Disney sometime soon. So there we have it, why the Narnia franchise ended with just 3 films, and why we may be some way off the next Narnia project. Did you enjoy the Narnia films? Do you even want more Narnia adaptations, whether it be films or shows? And will we ever get all 7 Chronicles of Narnia books adapted to the big screen? If you're new here, then perhaps consider subscribing to Film Club. I'll be reviewing Blue Beetle when it comes out this week, as well as the Ahsoka show's first 2 episodes next week. Thank you for watching, and see you again.